Hello and welcome to the Dragons Are Real podcast, episode 102. My name is Pete Jones. Well, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I've recently been playing a lot of 5th edition's Dungeons & Dragons. I'm currently running 2 games as GM. That is my Adventures in Middle-earth, which has been going on for about a year now. That's a Cubicle 7 game. And the second one I recently started is a face-to-face game of Curse of Strahd. I'm also playing in a bi-weekly Yawning Portal adventure. So yeah, lots of 5e. And with running lots of 5e, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do a 5e special today. And I'm going to be looking at monsters. So if you're not interested in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, I'll catch you next episode, no worries about it. But for those who are interested, let's delve into monsters in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So, when it comes to monsters for 5th edition, there are several sources you can look at. In the Systems Reference Document, or the SRD, there are 317 monsters you can use in your game without spending a penny at all, and that covers you from the aboleth to the zombie. If you want to spend some money, there are several books you can purchase. The first one is the Monster Manual from WotC, which contains all of the SRD monsters, and it contains an extra 8 monster types in 17 variants, which is the Beholder, the Carrion Crawler, the Displacer Beast, the Quoteau, the Mind Flayer, the Slard, the Umber Hulk, and the Yuan Ti, giving a grand total of 334 monsters. Also from WotC is Vogue's Guide to Monsters, which adds another 139 to your repertoire. And then if you go outside of WotC camp, then there are several other places to look at. 2 I recommend are the Tome of Beasts by Kobold Press. They've got 2 volumes out, each with 400 monsters. And then Total Party Kill Bestiary has 2 volumes out, each with 100 monsters to add to your repertoire. Also, all the D&D adventures contain sprinkled throughout them extra NPCs and monsters as required. Like in Curse of Strahd, you've got these Strahd zombies with you chop off their limbs and their limbs come for you as well. Now, when you're running a game and you've got your old stat blocks, some of these stat blocks can be at the most intimidating. A lot of the information on there you never actually use. And some of them do suffer from trait bloat with multiple abilities. Some of the abilities are questionable. Some abilities, if they have too many, you just forget about. And when it comes to playing monsters or NPCs with spellcasting, that can get quite heavy because they follow the PC rules at the moment, of which I'll come to more later. But sometimes you just want to design your own monsters. There's nothing there that floats your boat. So what can you do about it? Well, the first thing to do is reskin an existing monster that you've already got hold of. So flip through your monster manual or through the SRD, find something you like, and all you have to do is change the description to the players. You don't have to do anything else. The players don't know you're using the stats for an orc or the stats for a troll. All they know is what's happening to them. So reskin it. You can always bump up the armor class or bump it down if it fits better with the concept you're thinking of. Same with the hit points. Just knock it up and down a notch. Sometimes all you have to do is just change the name of the attack. So instead of a sword attack, it's a claw attack. And the players are none the wiser. Just keep the same bonus to hit and the same damage. They'll never know the difference. So that's the first way. Use a nice and simple reskin of something you've already got. If you want to create a monster from scratch, then you've got a 9-page guide in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And that's got 9 pages of how to design the monster. And I think it's something that's stupid, like, is it 15 or 20 steps? But hey, if you want to go through that, then feel free. And basically it gives you a chart which lists the challenge rating of a monster, and at that challenge rating, what proficiency bonus it will have, its armor class, the hit point range, it's an attack bonus, the damage per round it should be causing, and if it needs a save DC, the save DC for it. So that is in the DMG. I'm going to offer you a couple of alternatives as well. The other thing that often comes up on forums is especially if you're putting an encounter together for your players, is it deadly enough for your players? And that's something that I don't really look at. I tend to put in creatures and NPCs that fit in with the story. So if the players have to come across a dragon at first level, so be it. It doesn't mean that they have to fight it. They can run away. And if you want to throw a couple of bandits in at 10th level, yeah, of course they're going to beat 2 bandits easily at 10th level, but it might be fitting with the story. And you never know, the players might decide, do you know, instead of fighting these 2 bandits, let's capture them and interrogate them. You can also throw making encounters that are way out balanced for players, but it fits in with the story. And I did a story out recently where the players in the Middle Earth game had to go down to a bridge to delay an invading orc goblin army long enough for the people of Dale to get an army together to go down and meet it. And the players knew from the outset that this was going to be a hopeless scenario for them. They got this bridge, they barricaded it, they set fires on the other side, and they were just met with hordes of orcs and goblins streaming towards them. And we had an absolute epic 4-hour battle, and I had no limit on the number of orcs and goblins I was throwing at them. The more they cut down, the more I threw at them. And it was just something like at Helm's Deep. It was the players absolutely loved it as the streams of goblins and orcs sort of waved over them. And a lot of the creatures I had, if they did a hit, they killed 1. If they did 10-15 points of damage, maybe they killed 2 or 3 around them. And it was an epic fight, but it fitted in with the story. But some people do want to have balanced encounters, or they at least want to know whether the encounter they've got is deadly or not. And in Xantha's Guide to Everything, they've got a 4-page encounter guide which gives some clues. But what I'm going to suggest is Sly Flourish's Deadly Encounter benchmark. And you can catch this video on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And basically what you do is you take up your party of characters, your play characters, and you total up the total number of levels. If they are 5th level or above, you halve this number, and that is your benchmark number. If they are 4th level or below, then divide the total number of levels by 1/4, and that is your benchmark number. Then for any encounter, add up the total challenge rating of all monsters, and if the total of all the challenge rating of the monsters is equal or higher than the benchmark for the players, then you know that potentially that encounter is going to be deadly. So let's have a look at designing some monsters. Obviously the first guide you've got is the DMG, but I'm going to show you a couple of other ways that you can do it besides reskinning. And the first one we're going to look at is 5e Hardcore Mode by Runehammer Games, which you can pick up for the princely sum of £2.57 off Drive-Thru RPG. And basically all you need to do is you work out the challenging rating of the creature you require. And then once you've got that challenge rating, all other stats come off that challenge rating. So its armor class is 10 plus the challenge rating. Its hit points are 10 times the challenge rating. The ability checks and attack rolls, you just add the challenge rating to your d20 roll. And if you require to work out the XP, then you multiply the challenge rating by 200. The only thing it doesn't cover in there is damage to cause, but all you need to do is just take a look at some other creatures in your manual style manual and work it out. Next up, my suggestion is the Blog of Holding from the blogofholding.com. And the chap on here has looked at all the monsters in the monster manual and plotted them into various charts. And he's looked at their armor class, their hit points, and then compared them all together, plotted them on this chart and compared them to their own challenge ratings to see if he can sort of work out any trends. And what he's found out is that you can actually create some formulas for these creatures. And the way to do it is that you decide on the challenge rating of your creature and then use a formula for each thing you require. So for the armor class, it's 13 plus 1/3 of the challenge rating. And you can boost this up or down, plus or minus 3 either way, depending on the concept you've got. For the hit points, it's 15 multiplied by the challenge rating and add 15 to the score. And you can alter that by plus or minus 50% due to the concept of the creature you're creating. And if it's got something like a damage avoiding abilities, maybe it's got a resistance to bludgeoning and piercing, then you work out how much damage it would avoid over 3 rounds and reduce the hit points by that amount. Next one you look at is the attacks, and an attack bonus would be 4 plus half the challenge rating, and again you can alter that by plus or minus 2. And then you look at the damage budget for all of its attacks in 1 round, and the damage budget is 5 multiplied by the challenge rating plus 5. If you've got 3 attacks, you would take that number and divide it between those 3 attacks. Next up is the DC, the difficulty class, and that's 11 plus half the challenge rating, and again you can alter that by plus or minus 2. And then you've got the saves, and these are the bonuses to those saving throws that the monster would be naturally good at due to their strength or their dexterity, and that's calculated at 3 plus half the challenge rating, and again that can be altered by plus or minus 2. Once you've got those figures off the challenge rating, then you just add your details, so add your traits, resistances, immunities, vulnerabilities, any non-damaging effects, and look at other monsters for inspiration. These don't affect the CR in any way. And there is a slight alteration if you're creating a creature of CR 8 and above, where your hit points are 15 multiplied by the CR and your damage is 5 times the CR. So that's a slight difference. So what I thought I'd do is let's take a troll from the SRD. If we are creating it with the DMG, hardcore mode and bundle of holding, what sort of figures we come up with to see is it anywhere near. So a troll on the SRD is challenge rating of 5, and the original one has got an armor class of 15, and using the DMG would give an arms class of 15. Using hardcore mode would also give 15, and as with bundle of holding, using their formula gives an armor class of 15. An original troll has 84 hit points. The DMG suggests a ballpark of 131 to 145, so it does seem quite a bit more bloated. Hardcore mode is 34 points less at 50 hit points, and the bundle of holding method gives 90 hit points. The to hit is plus 7 for a troll on its attacks. The DMG suggests plus 6. Hardcore mode is plus 5, and bundle of holding is plus 6. The troll is a multi-attack, it does 3 attacks per round, so the average damage it does in a round is 30 points on the original. The DMG suggests in the ballpark of 33 to 38. Bundle of holding also suggests 30 points, and hardcore mode doesn't cover this. Then when we come to skills, the skills are in the region of plus 2 to plus 5 to any dice roll depending on which skill is used. The DMG suggests plus 3, and both hardcore and bundle of holding suggest plus 5, which is at the top end of it. So as you can see, these other methods do give something similar to the monster manual. So that's great stuff for if you want to look at creating your own creatures. Now when it comes to spellcasting, I found spellcasters as NPCs and monsters run the similar way that the play characters are, and it can get a bit tiring and a bit difficult because basically you get a list of levels of how many slots the NPC spellcaster has got, and then it just lists the spells after it, and then you've got to dig out the old player's handbook and cross-reference with those spells. So for example, it might list first level, it's got 4 slots: detect magic, identify mage armor and magic missile, and then second level will have 3 slots with 3 more spells, third level will have 3 slots with 3 more spells. And you find out quite often that you don't use all these spells. You usually use 1 or 2 key ones, the rest you just don't get a chance to use them. Well, they announced recently that 5th edition is having a new 5.5 edition in 2024 ready for the 50th anniversary of D&D. And one of the things they've said is that they are changing the way spellcasting works for NPCs and monsters. And it's going to a bit of an at-will method, the same way it was in 4th edition. And if you look at In the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is one of the latest adventures out for 5th edition, they've got some examples in there, the way they're thinking. So one of them there, it shows that the attack for this NPC is a Sorcerer's Bolt. It's a melee or ranged spell attack, plus 6 to hit. It's got 1 target hit for 13 or 2d12 force damage. So it's actually putting one of the spells as the attack, so you haven't got to worry about its spellcasting for that one. It's also got a reaction arcane defense, which you can use 3 times per day. When the NPC is hit by an attack, he protects himself with his invisible barrier of magical force, and then until the end of his next turn he gains +5 bonus to armor class against the triggering attack. Again, keeping it nice and simple. And in this one, the spellcaster has got spellcasting, which uses his charisma, and he's got at-will spells. He's got light, mage hand, and prestidigitation. I can never say this one. And once per day, it can use each of dominate, beast, fly, mirror, image, and web. So it's not even listing them as the spell levels. It's just listing 4 spells which it can use once per day. So much easier. So that is my look at 5th edition monsters. I hope this has been of some use for you. I will leave a link in the show notes to all the books I've referenced, the websites, etc., etc. Find them in the show notes and do go and have a look at them, especially the blog holding one. If you like your 5th edition, the work he's done there on monsters and the averages are really interesting, especially if you like numbers. So that's all for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.